Are you missing out on opportunities to do more social selling in your business? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today on Before the Launch. Thank you so much for being here. If we have not met before, my name is Brenna McGowan. I am a launch strategist, a copywriter, and a pre-launch expert. And today we're going to tackle how can you start to do a little bit more social selling and or pre-selling? And why I want to talk about this is that pre-selling is so incredibly important, but you could also do some of the things that we're going to be talking about also during your actual launch or promotion cycles, which is how can you start to have more sales by one-on-one conversation? So when I think of social selling, I think of it more like Instagram or Facebook DMs, but I also think about this more in the terms of setting up an environment to have one-to-one conversation. So to me, what we're going to talk about can also be off the back end of an email or some other way of promoting. And pre-selling is so important. If we take a look right now, like Taylor Swift is all the rage. Her new album is coming out in October. And Taylor Swift has been pre-launching and pre-selling hard, right? So this is such an important component of your business. And we talked a lot about this in last week's episode, which will drop here in the show notes. But what I want you to think about one-to-one conversations, because what I had a person, one of my coaching clients today, be like, I feel like I'm missing out on opportunities because I don't want to seem too pushy. And so how I want you to think about this is I want you to think about where opportunity meets with consent, right? Where does it collide with consent? Interestingly enough, I was actually just listening to a podcast episode with Michael Stelzner and Alex Catoni on social media marketing podcast. And Alex talked a little bit about this. And I was like, yes, this is what I talked to my students about what I showed people, which is she had talked about how to do some unscalable tactics, which is having one-on-one conversations. And the conversation that her and Michael had, he was talking about okay, well, how do you initiate these conversations? And something that I'm paraphrasing here, but something Alex said that I just agree with wholeheartedly, which is you have to have consent, meaning you have to have someone who is interested. And this is why pre-launch content is so important, because if you can't position your content in a way that gets people interested, gets them asking themselves questions, and then better yet, gets them asking, hey, can you give me a little bit more information? And they start to ask you this, it leads an open opportunity for you to start having conversations with people one-on-one. And you can do this both while you're pre-selling during pre-launch. You can also do this during your actual launch. So how can you start more of these conversations? So a really quick and easy tactic that you're almost going to be like, okay, this seems too easy, which is ask people. Simply asking people, hey, if you're interested, let me know. Reply with this one word. Send me a quick email. Send me a DM. Don't put them through a mini chat sequence, right? Just say, hey, if you're interested and want to hear more, just DM me the word launch and I'll tell you more about this. You will be surprised. And then sometimes you'll be surprised on who responds to you, especially if you have amazing pre-launch content that's really dialed in and is speaking to the right person. But you're also will be amazed sometimes is that when I do some of these calls to action, I'm not necessarily expecting my inbox or my DMs to get flooded. I'm just looking for the few people who are like, yes, this is for me, and I can open up conversations with. I think sometimes we feel like if we're not getting flooded with DMs, if we don't get tons of replies, our stuff isn't working. It's like, no, sometimes we have a lot of lurkers in our audience who want to sit back and kind of watch a launch. They want to watch a promotion. Then you have the people who are interested. And so I always go in, and it's helped me so much with my calls to action sometimes, is that I'm not necessarily expecting tons and tons of replies. I'm just expecting 1, 2, 4, 5, maybe 10 of the right people replying that I can start and have one-on-one conversations with. Because if you can start and have more one-on-one conversations, your conversion rate. So I don't remember which episode it was. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I talked about how conversion rates, are somewhere like around 1%. And, 1 to 3% is the average conversion rate, maybe a little bit higher on warmer traffic. But when you can start having more one-to-one conversations, all of a sudden you can have sometimes 60, 70, 80, 100% conversion rate off of those conversations. And I know during my last launch, I had pivoted a little bit mid-launch of what I was doing. And instead of pushing people to a sales page, I started pushing people to a sales call with me. And my conversions shot through the roof once I started having one-to-one conversations. And if my memory serves me correctly, I think my close rate was like close to 100% on those sales calls. And so that is because instead of pushing people to the sales page, I pushed them to have a conversation with me. And when I was able to have one-on-one conversations with people, I was able to dig into, and this is what I want you to think of, is thinking about how can you ask questions where people, and this goes back to like, if you've done any type of sales training, right? Going through and thinking, we want to figure out where is the person at in their business? What are the things that are holding them back? Where is the struggles that they have? And what is the thing that they're looking for on the other side? So when you are starting to initiate these conversations, first of all, you need to get consent, right? We're not randomly DMing people and trying to sell them our stuff. No one is buying that way. Let me promise you. We want to create really great content that speaks to the heart of where someone is at. Through that content, we want to make a call to action where we are asking them to give us consent to help give them more information. And then through that consent, we're then going into a conversation where we are truly looking to see, is this the right thing for this person where they're at in their business? And what ends up happening is and this goes back to the episodes, I need to like keep a track of these, but I talked in the last couple of weeks about messaging. Like when you know your messaging so well, you have this confidence. You know who the right person is for this program. And so when someone does give you that consent and they do, then all of a sudden it's not a matter of being pressured or trying to get someone into a sale. It's how can I ask the right questions of this person so that they will recognize that my offer is either right for them or actually not the right thing at all. And when we can start to do that, and we do that in a way that feels natural, and it starts to feel like a regular conversation, and it starts to let the pressure off because you can truly, and some people may advise against this, which is in sales, there's always something called you assume the sale. And meaning when someone like asks you a question and you could be like, okay, well, when you join, here's the link to join. And I'm a little bit, yes, I assume the sale. I assume people are going to want to work with me, but I'm waiting for, I guess you could say, cues of even more consent to bring the conversation further along. And so that's what I want you to think of. But once you have that consent, and once you realize that someone is interested, I also do not let opportunity pass me by. So if you're someone who is like, hey, Brenda, I'm interested in the pre-launch plan program. Once we go through and I have a conversation with you, I ask you some of these questions, then at that point, once again, because I know my messaging and I know who the right fit is for my program, I can confidently present an opportunity to you in a way where I can, quote unquote, assume the sale by giving you also a lot of autonomy in your buying. So think about if you're someone who's afraid to do more social selling, you're afraid to have one-on-one conversations. The questions that I would start to ask yourself is, do you truly fundamentally understand your messaging? And when I just say messaging, and sometimes I feel like this word is used a lot and people don't know what it is. Do you understand your sales argument and the positioning around your offer? Do you truly, truly understand down to the thoughts and the inner emotions around your offer. Do you understand your ideal client and who is a perfect fit for your product or service? Once you understand that and you're able to create content that speaks to that right person and starts to create buzz and anticipation, then you can also look for opportunities to start these one on one conversations and get consent. And once you have that consent, you're able to go in and ask confidently for the sale because all of these things line up. So, what I've noticed more is I think people are afraid to do a little bit more quote unquote social selling, one to one selling, is because they're not really confident in how they speak about their offer. They're not super confident in terms of their positioning. They're not crazy confident that they're speaking to the right person all the time. They're not as confident because they haven't been doing their pre launch. They haven't been putting out the type of content that's warming people up. And so there are these things that if you do this ahead of time and you're looking for times to create more one-to-one conversations, then all of a sudden this beautiful thing starts to happen. People start leaning in. They start asking you questions. They start being curious and you're able to pre-sell, you're able to sell during a launch and you're able to have more conversations that open up the opportunity for sales without feeling like there is a ton of pressure or that you are. I don't think any of us would want to do this, but sometimes you're like, oh, like, is this really the right thing for this person? Am I trying to convince them too much? All of that goes away when you get this confidence that we talked about here today. And so if you're someone, if you're like, oh my gosh, I want more of this, I want to create more sales, I want to have more and better fit customers and clients in my programs. I don't want it to feel so stressful. I want this confidence. I want to be able to talk to people about my offers and get more people in. Then I want to invite you into the pre launch plan program. Like I mentioned, doors are closing as of now. Looking back at my calendar, they are closing Wednesday the 24th or Thursday the 25th. If you are interested, I will link the sales page to PPP. But better than that, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at Brenna McGowan Co. You can find me on Boxer at Bren McGowan. Come have a conversation with me and we'll talk about exactly what we're talking about, which is what I'm talking about today a right fit for you for where you're at in your business? And I know I've had so many clients and customers that are like, oh my gosh, I am so much more clear about this offer. This is the best program I've ever taken. I have tripled my sales. I have pre-sold 20, 30, 50%, if not higher, of their spots in their program. And the type of results, like go look at the sales page, speak for themselves when you start doing this process that we're talking about. So I hope if this is the right fit for you, I will see you inside of the pre-launch plan program. But if not, we'll be back next week to talk more about what you need to say and do before your launch to increase your results. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you next week.